Hello, I'm Paul Graff with Twin Beans Coffee, and we are talking about coffee in the wild. And with me today I have Mike. He's been a customer of ours for a long time. In fact, his nickname is Macchiato Mike at our shop. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got connected with us.
Yeah, so I work here at the College of Southern Idaho. I run our outdoor program, and I met Paul and the crew probably 8 years ago now when they first opened the shop, and I was doing a lot of backcountry trips. And it's kind of neat that I get to come and talk today with Paul about coffee in the wild, because early on in our relationship, that was the conversation, was like, hey, I'm going on this 2-week-long rafting trip. How do I keep my beans fresh? Or what kind of grind should I use on my little Porlex grinder to make backcountry coffee? And so that was our early back and forth. And so now we're full circle and we get to talk about it here.
So what we want to talk about is just some different brew methods to use when you're out hiking or camping. And a lot of it depends on whether you're in a short-term camp, whether you're just day camping or you're overnight for a couple of nights, or whether you're on a 2 or 3 week trip. So Mike, tell me what you would use different brew methods for.
So it kind of depends on the trip, depends on who I'm going with, what my role is. I do a lot of instructing in the backcountry. I have to pay attention to folks, and I also just go camping with friends, or I go on like lighter, faster trips where coffee is not the sole focus, which is weird, I know,
but kind of weird.
But yeah. I've moved to that point. And so depending on the group, there's a lot of different options out there. The AeroPress is always one of my go-tos. It's plastic, it's durable, it's fairly lightweight. It's kind of an awkward shape if I'm trying to stay in a really small footprint. But if I get a chance, I'll take my AeroPress out.
Some of the fancier coffees that you can do, one of those is Turkish coffee. And so with a Turkish coffee, we'd use a Porlex grinder or a hand grinder at a very fine grind. We'd put our water and our coffee. If you like a little bit of sugar, maybe 3/4 teaspoon of sugar. If you like it really authentic, you can put some cardamom seeds in there and grind it all together. So then you'll just bring that up to just almost a boil where it foams. Pull it off, do it again. Depends on how much you want to do. Now that's if you've got a little bit of time. You're not worried about everybody waiting on you, because it's a slow process. But that is a great way to enjoy a cup of almost espresso-like coffee, but strong but not bitter. And then at the same time, another version of that is what we call the cowboy coffee.
So I mean, it's all great and grand if we're like fancy and we're carrying our coffee supplies with us and we're carrying all of our different equipment, but sometimes it gets a little dire and all you have is a cooking pot or some way to boil the water and then ground coffee. And that's when we get into cowboy coffee. There's a whole ethos about the West and tough, rough, tumble cowboys, but really it's just born out of necessity. And so cowboy coffee, for me, looks like just a pot of water and coffee grounds. You just throw it all in together, you bring it to a boil. You see the grounds kind of come to the surface. You get a little bit of the rise that you would get out of any other brew method. And then you turn the heat off and just let it all settle. And then the grounds themselves are sitting up on top. And the goal of cowboy coffee is figuring out how to get the grounds to the bottom as quick as possible. You're not going to separate the grounds in the water. You're going to kind of drink it with your teeth at that point. And so a couple of ways to increase the speed of that sedimentation. A lot of my friends will take a spoon or a spatula and they'll hit the side of the pot and they'll turn the pot as they're hitting it, and that helps kind of get that get the grind to fall. Another thing I've seen is just a splash of cold water that breaks that surface tension and helps get the grinds to go down. And then you're just going to either carefully pour the pot to where you're only getting the top layer of the liquid and then have the grounds left, or you're just gonna drink it like a cowboy with your teeth and your mustache.
Mike, another way that we can enjoy coffee is already brewed coffee and cooled down, cold brew. You can either brew it hot and cool it, which is not my preference. Mine is actually to brew it cold over a longer period of time. And you can actually freeze it in a jar and let it stay cold for you, or you can bring it in just chilled from your fridge and put it in with your ice pack if you're doing a day camp or an overnight.
And that way, for like a shorter trip or a day like this where it's fairly warm, we can actually have coffee that's already made and just take it in with us. So the thing about cold brew is that cold brew is all of its liquid form, and one of our principles with backcountry travel is we want to carry as little weight as we can get away with. And so with a cold brew coffee, I might carried in overnight for the next morning, but I'm not gonna plan on cold brew
Right.
like multiple days in a row for no other reason than ounces equal pound and pound equals pain.
Yep, and so it's more for your short 1 or 2 days that you want to have your cold brew. And these are just some of the ways that you can brew coffee. What you want to do is think about how long you're going to be out, what type of traveling you're going to be doing. Is it going to be mostly in a vehicle that you're going to come out for a day camp, or you're going to be hiking and hauling your coffee around? Paul Graff with Twin Beans Coffee.
Mike Young with CSI Outdoors.
Have a great time enjoying your coffee in the wild.